Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're carving a Santa head out of a deer antler. Okay, well, full disclosure, this is one of the biggest experiments I've ever pulled on the show because I have never carved a deer antler. I'm not even sure what to expect. So, why don't we head over to the bench and I'll show you what I've got in mind and we'll kind of go from there. Well, I was on Amazon and I found these. Antler chews for your dog. Now, I don't know anything about antler chews for dogs, but they are also billed as antler tips and slices for crafting purposes. Things like making earrings from and bracelets and that sort of thing, little decorative pieces. And I got the idea looking at the shape of them years ago, and I've done it here on the show, that I would carve a Santa icicle from a strip of wood, and it would end up to be about a 5 to 6 inch long icicle by the end of it, and we would paint it, etc., etc. And I saw how small these are and how gorgeous they are and all the different patterns of the different antlers and the different types, and I got to wondering if I could carve the same type of Santa icicle style Christmas ornament out of one of these antlers. So let me go through here. I'm going to choose one that I think looks the most interesting for me to try this project on, and let's get this project started. Well, out of all of these pieces of antlers, I was really torn between which one to choose. I really like this line pattern in this type of antler. I really like the bumps and the shapes on this one, but I wanted something a little lighter in color. So I ended up choosing this one here. It's got a great shape to it, and I think that this surface right here will be perfect for the Santa face. So this is the one that we're going to use. So we're going to put all these aside. I still have ideas for these antler slices. I'm wondering if these can be laser engraved. There's only one way to find out, isn't there? We're going to give that a try maybe a little later. But either way, guys, what we want to do now is on this Santa antler, we need to mark out for our face. So we're going to draw a center line here. Let's say something like this. There we go. And we need lines for his eyes. There's the level of his eyes, and we'll say there will be his nose. And let's say there will be his mouth. Now, it doesn't look like much, I know, and I don't even know if this is showing on the camera. But in order to do the eyes on Santa, to make them proportionate, the face is divided in 5 equal sections across from side to side. And the second and the fourth section, counting from either side, is the width of the eyes in equal increments. The nose is contained within that center section, and the edges of the mouth in general meet up with the pupils of the eye. If you were to draw a vertical line down between the pupils of the eye, they would meet up with the corner of the mouth. Now, children's proportions are completely different, guys, so don't get those confused. So there we go. There is our Santa face on that antler. I don't know if it's showing, but that is our layout lines for our Santa face. Now the rest, this down here will be beard, and I would like to keep that as natural as possible. And the top here, I want his hat to be made, but I don't know if I want the hat to be pointy with a pom-pom on top like the other ones that I have done, or if I want to try something a little different and maybe have his hat be folded over with a pom-pom on the side. I haven't quite decided about that yet. Maybe we could cut off another piece from another piece of antler and glue it on the side for a pom-pom. I don't know. But we're going to get the face done first. So I have a collection here of my bits. I'm thinking, because I don't know how hard this stuff is, I'm thinking that I'm going to be using diamond tipped bits for this. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I have a pointed detail diamond tip bit here, and I'm going to use this to start off by carving out the mouth. So I have the antler held in a little jeweler's vise that I have here, just to help me keep my hands away from it as I'm carving. And we're just going to see how soft this material is as we carve out the mouth. Well, it's doing an okay job on the antler, but I have to say the antler is a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be. So we're going to get a more aggressive bit and see how we make out. Now, of course, the aggressiveness of the bit is completely up to you. It's a personal preference thing, and you're going to want to try your bits and see which one works for you. Okay, this one seems to be working a little better. I don't want to go too aggressive because I don't want to damage the antler. So we're just going to go easy here on this carving. Now we're not really carving a mouth for the Santa per se. We're carving the undertones or the side of where his mustache would overhang, because of course Santa has that big beard. Alright, so there we go with the beginnings of his face. So let me get this mouth finished up, and then we'll move on to the cheeks area. Well, I think for now I'm content with that. I may go a little deeper as I see how the carving goes. I've removed the handle, by the way, on this carver in case you're wondering, and I've placed it in there with a dog hole pin. But what I'm going to do now is we need to carve out the cheeks. The cheeks are going to start giving the face some shape. So his cheek will be right about here, and as well right here. So underneath that is where we want to carve it to have the cheeks a little more pronounced. I've changed the bit again. I wasn't happy with the way that other one was performing. So we're just going to, this is just a stone bit, and it seems to work really well on the antler. So I don't know if you can see that, but I've kind of got this on an angle here, and I'm grinding just above the mustache to both curl the mustache in and have the cheekbone curl out. But you want to be careful not to go into the nose area. Okay, there we go. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. Now guys, you can go as aggressive or as light as you want on this. All right, that doesn't look too bad. I'm going to bring it further across the front of the face and try to get the mustache defined, and as well the bottom of the nose. And at this point, guys, what we want to do, or what I want to do, is I'm going to give the indentations for the eyes. So I'm just going to move this down a little bit here in the vise, clamp it in, and we're going to try to do a little bit of an indentation here for the eye sockets. So we're just going to define the edges of the nose. All right, so we're going to get the rest of the eye sockets defined there, and the nose, hopefully. And once I get that kind of finished up, I'll show you what it looks like at that point. Well, I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is what we've got so far. I'm kind of pleased with it. It's coming along. It takes time, and that's the problem. It's almost skeletal at this point in time, but that's because there's no eyeballs or any features. I have done a little bit of veining lines down through here with the carver to give a little more of the impression of the beard. I'm just debating now if I want to add another piece of antler that would represent his hat instead of trying to carve it. I thought maybe that might be kind of cool. So I'm just going through here to see what would work, but I don't want him to be wizard-like. That is the problem I'm kind of running into here. I don't, this isn't really a Santa-style beard. He has a full beard, but yet I think in some of the Scandinavian countries, he does look very Viking-ish or very wizardry. So I'm just debating on this hat thing and whether or not that's what I want to do. I kind of like the way it looks with the hat on there. So this guy here is a possibility for a Santa hat. I mean, I talked about how much I like the shape of these, but that's a little too weird. It doesn't really fit with what I was hoping to accomplish here. And this here, well, you know what? That's just Santa at a party now, isn't it? Okay, so now we're getting silly. All right, so let me finish carving this. I think what I need to do is I need to get a detail carver. This one here is nice and small, but I'm going to try to get an even smaller detail carver. See if I can't get some pupils in here and soften up those cheekbones a little bit. And then maybe I'll decide what I want to do about this hat afterwards. It's kind of up in the air right now. Maybe carve a hat separately and then glue it on top. That might work. Yeah, you know what? I think that might work. So let me see what I can do here. I'm going to clean up his features, get him looking a little more Santa-ish, and we'll go from there. Well, I'm just using a fine detail grinding stone to place a few details in things like Santa's eyebrows and his mustache and beard. Now guys, I've been looking at this and toying around with that idea that I spoke of gluing another antler on top for his hat and that sort of thing, and I don't like it. The more that I look at this, the more that I like the Santa that it is without any added features. But I would like for the features that I've taken the time to carve in this to show up a little better. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of wood stain, and I'll show you what to do with that. Well, I have a little bit of old Minwax stain here, and what I'm hoping to do is rub it onto our antler and then rub it off. I'm trying to get our lines or our carving to be accentuated or have it show up a little better by having the stain sink into it. I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to try. It may not absorb into this antler because, of course, antler is bone. It may not soak into the bone. So I have that on there, and we're just going to give it a little wipe to see if it did anything, and it did nothing. It did absolutely nothing. If anything, all it did was make his eyes look scared. Okay, well, it darkened it a little bit, but nothing serious, not as much as I would have liked it to. Maybe what we need is to use a little bit of paint and maybe place some paint on there, rub it in, and then rub it off quickly before it has a chance to dry. That might be the way to go. But for now, yeah, that did absolutely nothing. So let's try something different. Well, you know, I said that the stain didn't do anything, but as I went through, I realized what it did is it muddied it up a little bit. So I went through with the carving stone again and just cleaned up some of the lines and cleaned up the face, as well as a little bit of 600 grit sandpaper to kind of clean it up just a touch. And I kind of like what it's done to it. You can see the difference here between this, where we didn't have any stain at all, and this image where we have the stain. So I was considering paint, but I really don't think it's necessary. I think this is kind of cool all on its own. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to get my jeweler's drill and a small drill bit. Well, I have my pin vise with a small drill bit installed, and right in the center of Santa's head, sorry Santa, please don't give me a lump of coal for Christmas because I'm drilling a hole in your head. We are going to drill a small little hole here, and this is going to be for a tiny little eye bolt so that we can use an ornament hanger and hang this from our tree. This is a tougher drilling than I thought it was going to be. I know that on the first diamond bits I said that they weren't really carving this as quickly as I would have liked, but I thought that drilling this would have been faster than this. How deep am I there? Not bad, a fair distance. I think that's enough for our eye hook. So we're just going to take our little eye bolt here. These are just tiny little eye bolts. I don't even know the size. I have a lot of these kicking around in various areas of the shop. And we're just going to screw that in. That's a little on the tight side. It doesn't want to cooperate, so we're going to use this pin, which is actually from my power carver. And we're gonna use it to assist us to sink this into the bone of the antler. And there we go. All right, let's check that out. That looks great. And now really all that's left to do would be to hang this from the tree. So guys, one thing that I'd like to point out is that these dog chews here, they come in these smaller bits, as I said, called tips and slices, but they also come in a larger variety of the tips, which are much longer sections. So if we just compare it to the one that we carved on today's show, this is much larger, much longer, much beefier. So you could really get a much more much more detailed rather carving if you wanted to. This one here was a little kind of dicey at times due to its size. It's very small and it's very labor intensive, we'll say, to get in there and to get this thing to be the way that you want it. But if you had the larger pieces of antler, it would give you more working room, especially with the longer part for the beard. So there you go. There are options between the smaller pieces or the longer pieces. So you can pick which ones you like. And there you have it. A Santa carved deer antler. What do you call this project, guys? I'll tell you what I call it. I call it pretty darn cool. You don't have to be some great artist to pull something like this off. It doesn't even have to be realistic. It doesn't even have to be lifelike. It can just be a representation, and that's really all I've done here. If you look here at the actual carving itself, there's not a lot of detail. There is some divots where the eyes should be. There's some divots where the cheeks are. There's some lines where the mustache and the beard are, and some divots just above the forehead to give the eyebrows. Guys, it really doesn't even have a nose. It's just an area that was carved out. The nose is actually on a profile completely flat. It is nothing more than a representation of Santa Claus. However, it does give a great visual and it does give a great image of Santa. And I love this. I think it looks great. I'm really glad I decided not to paint it. Number one, because I absolutely hate painting things. That's just me. I can't stand painting. But number two, it really makes this show that it is a deer antler. I left the color on the back of it natural, which gives it a really nice look. I really like the way it turned out. I also hit this with the buffer over at the lathe, which gave it a really nice shine, a nice little finish on it. Guys, it's bone. There is no need to do anything to it other than to carve it and leave it alone. Now, prior to this show, I always thought that antlers were kind of like calcium or that sort of thing, but that actually isn't true. I did a little bit of research and it turns out that these are in fact bone, and horns are made from the same type of chemical makeup as things like fingernails, whereas antlers are bones. So there you go, you learn something new every day. I didn't know that, and now I know. So I've been carving bone this whole time and didn't know it, which makes me wonder if this would be any good for the bridge on, say, a ukulele build. That would be really cool. But anyway, guys, this is a really neat little ornament, a lot of fun. It didn't take long to carve, maybe about an hour all in all from start to finish. And you know what? You should give this one a try. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning into the show this week. This one has been a little bit different, and if it wasn't for these dog chew things showing up on my Amazon, I probably would have never done this. So I'm glad that they did, and I'm glad I gave it a try because I had a lot of fun with it. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. We have a fantastic audience base here, and I hope that you're going to consider becoming a part of that. Guys, I want to thank you again for tuning in this week. I hope you've enjoyed the content. I hope you're going to give this one a try. I'll post the links below to these antler tips and slices. And more importantly, guys, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays. Doesn't get more alternative than carving a deer antler.